Are we live?
It says we're live.
Well, I'm not seeing that we're live. Okay, well, now we're live. All right, good morning, everyone. Hope you all had a nice Friday night. Hope you all had a better Friday night than me. Although, I do want to give a special shout out to the Minnesota Timberwolves just to fight so hard, come through, finish in the fourth quarter. Steve Kerr decides to bring in, what was that, Prop Beaver? A lacrosse
Famous
player?
Los really went in on that one. I don't know. They brought in a lacrosse player. I mean, truly special coaching right there. To bring in a lacrosse player down 5 in the third quarter, taking out Steph Curry, greatest shooter of all time. Just great stuff.
Well, I mean, okay, so Steph Curry has to come out at some point. You don't want to play him. Maybe you don't want to play him the entire 24 minutes in the second half, but then you bring in, like, you could have brought in Buddy Hield. Like, there you have other options. Steve Kerr's a strange guy. But I appreciate it. I appreciate it, Steve, because Minnesota was my top NBA bet, and I got crushed in college football, so winning my top NBA bet was nice. All right. We got 6 conference championship games to get to. Should we just start? Scoop, do you have anything you'd like to say?
You're muted.
You're muted.
Oh, I did not mute him either. So
I never mute myself too.
Okay.
I don't even know how that happened. Yeah, you want me to talk about the game? This is a good game.
All right, let's start with the game. We're into it's MACtion, MAC championship game. This one starts in 59 minutes. Scoop, what's the move here?
Yeah, I'm gonna be on Ohio, the one without Miami in the name. This will be the first MAC title for Ohio, I think. Ohio has the best run offense in the conference, most yards per game in the conference. No, Parker Navarro is not Curtis Rourke, but this running offense is absolutely awesome compared to the rest of the MAC. Anthony Tyus is a stud. I know Miami, Ohio has an extremely great run defense that can mostly stop anyone here, but their offense, I just don't see them keeping up. They only have the 7th most yards per game in the conference, 100th in SP plus in offense. It's definitely a run-first type of team, but they're still 107th EPA per rush. Miami did beat Ohio 30-20 earlier this year, that game was ugly. It was 30-0 in that game actually, but this one's a neutral site. Ohio's won 5 straight since then. They outscored everyone 189-54.
They beat up on Ball State after they fired their coach. Wow, that's crazy.
All right, you were 0-3 yesterday, so I was 1-2. So, their defense has come up big the last 5 weeks too. They actually got up to 45th in SP plus. They're allowing the 2nd fewest yards per game. Bradley Weaver on the end has gotten to the quarterback a lot this season, so I think they'll have problems if they drop back the pass when they do. And as much as I said Navarro isn't Rourke, that may be passing the ball, but rushing, he's been great. He has 13 rushing touchdowns. He's breaking tackles. He has 34 10-plus yard runs, which is actually like top 30 in the whole country. So, but both Ohio lines have been awesome. If you're trusting Gabbard to throw the ball, I'd take that all day. Ohio still has the best run defense in the league, and I have to imagine this defense, the way it's been playing, I won't allow them to go down massively like they did the first game. So that took Ohio out of their comfort zone of just running the ball most of the game. They had to pass, something Navarro isn't great at doing. So I'm going to take the points here. Go Ohio. Go Bobcats.
All right, so Scoop's really proud of Ohio for beating up on Ball State after they fired their coach. Apparently,
just Ball State.
Scoop wants to throw Ohio a parade for beating up on Ball State.
It wasn't just Ball State.
That Eastern Michigan one was dope too.
Oh, what? Eastern Michigan. Oh,
Kent
man.
State
Kent State's in there?
Yeah, man.
I mean, they beat Toledo and they killed Buffalo, who's like only got 16 points that game, but okay.
So this game is a carbon copy of the SEC championship game today. It's a carbon. They played earlier in the year. One team blew them out, and now that team is actually the only difference.
And hold on, let me real quick. You said blew them out. A lot of people might look at me like it was 30-20. No, it was 30-6.
Kind of similar to the Georgia-Texas game. That score was 30-15. That doesn't look as bad as it was. It was actually probably more like
dude, chill.
No,
with
but
that.
if you did like a shot quality like we have in college basketball, it probably would have been like.
Never
45.
mind. I regret trying to back up your point. Go on.
No, but that's what I'm saying is it was a blowout. Same thing like that. But the only difference is the team that did the blowing out in the first game is favored. So the question would be, do you think it's going to be similar? I tend to. I think that they're going to probably not do the exact same thing. I don't think they're going to beat them 30, or I don't think they're going to be up 30-0 at some point. I think they're going to cover this number. I like this Miami of Ohio team. I think they play well. Their defenses. I mean, the numbers aren't as good as last year because I think last year's were just unbelievable. I mean, last year they had one of the best defenses in the country, let alone in the MAC. This year, the talent was a little bit less because obviously the portal and they had a lot of seniors last year. Still really good. I mean, you look at what Ohio did, right? Or what the Bobcats did after they played Miami of Ohio. It was great. But in that game, I mean, they couldn't do a thing. They had 3.3 yards per carry. That's by far the lowest they had in a game in the MAC this year. They had 4.2 yards per attempt. They can't do that. Those numbers can't happen. And they did that. That's the one outlier in MAC play. And it's very clearly because of the Miami of Ohio defense. So I think that's going to continue. For Miami of Ohio's offense, they don't inspire you exactly, but I think they'll get enough done, especially on a neutral site today, to win this one. But I want to be clear. I hate MAC football. I've been very clear about this year. So don't completely take mine, but I think Kyle will be more compelling.
No, garbage offense.
Garbage offense. Okay. So, yeah, I'm on the same side as that. I bet Miami of Ohio money line at -135, and I also threw a half unit on the tease line of Miami -6.5 at +160 or whatever the hell I got it at. So, yeah, obviously, since getting their asses beat by this team, Ohio has looked really good. They benched their quarterback in that game. In the Miami of Ohio game, they benched Parker Navarro. The next game, he's back, and since then, they've played really well. But it's important to point out that they've played every single bad team in the MAC, with the exception of that Miami of Ohio game where they got their asses beat. Other than that, I mean, we're talking Akron, Central Michigan, Buffalo, Kent State, Eastern Michigan, Toledo, Ball State.
Miami lost to Toledo.
Hold on. The highest ranked offense on that list is Ball State at 100th, and that was they played them after they fired their coach. So, yes, Ohio is definitely looking much better the last 5 games, playing a much better brand of football. But why are we not saying the same thing about Miami of Ohio, who's been on a warpath? They've won 7 in a row. They're averaging 31.9 points per game, over 7.2 yards per play. The fact that this game's being played at Ford Field only helps Miami of Ohio. This is a passing attack, going to be obviously indoors on the turf. It's turf, right? Ford Field?
Yeah.
Yeah, so indoors on the turf helps Miami of Ohio's case. They're going to be able to throw the ball on Ohio. And look, the Bobcats might have the best rushing attack in the MAC. They lead the conference in both rushing yards per game and yards per carry. So I'm sure Ohio will be able to move the chains here and there on the ground, but I can't see them making stops against the Miami of Ohio passing attack. I'm a little bit worried that, in my opinion, this number should be 3.5. So the fact that it's at 2.5, based on what happened last night, I guess the way I'll describe it is the quote-unquote sharp lines were the winners. The public, square, obvious bets. I don't know if those are the best words to classify them, but those are the ones that lost yesterday. So a little worried about that. Clearly, there's some sharp action on the Ohio side, keeping this number below 3. But, yeah, I'm on Miami of Ohio in this one. Next.
Miami also beat Ball State by like 5 or whatever, 6.
They won.
Everybody lays in.
Okay.
And that was before they fired their coach when Ball State was actually playing all right.
Parker Navarro.
Next up. What's next?
What a football game.
Oh, it's Marshall next. We're doing this one already. I hate this one.
Dude, I put the 2 group of 5 games.
All right, well, then you could talk about it. You put it here.
No, dude, I have nothing to say about this game either. If you don't know, I'll just.
I have a lot to say about it.
I don't know how
to say. All right, let's go.
Go.
Yeah, so 6 points to Marshall's are kind of rough. What is it, 5.5 now? The big thing here is in it's a home game for Louisiana. I think out of all the games today, actually, this is the only one that isn't played on a neutral field. Obviously huge for Louisiana. It may rain, but nice overall in the 50s, so weather's not going to be a factor. Both of these teams are coming into this one really hot. Marshall's won 6 straight, Louisiana 5 of 6. I'm taking Louisiana here. The offense is just great. Louisiana's 3rd in red zone scoring this year in the nation, 6th in turnover margin. They give up fewer yards. They give up fewer points. They've scored more. They've gained more yards per game than Marshall. The thing with Louisiana, if you haven't really paid attention to the Sun Belt, is their starting quarterback. Ben Woolidge got hurt 3 weeks ago. He's out for the season. He was a really big part of the team, but Chandler Fields has stepped up from his backup spot. And the good thing about him is this is his 6th year at Louisiana. So he started a bunch of games for them previously, so it's not a huge drop-off. So, in fact, so far this year, in his 3 games, he's had a 74% completion percentage, 5 touchdowns, 1 pick. There's hardly any regression right there. But I know Marshall has a great solid. I mean, it's a solid defense, and they're mainly great through the air, but they are a pretty bad run team. They're 108th in EPA per rush on defense, 93rd in defensive rush success rate. So, meanwhile, Louisiana has Dylan Perry and what's his name, Bill Davis. They're both extremely solid running backs, and this team's 17th in EPA per rush. I get that Louisiana is also a soft defensive run team themselves, but they're still a better offense and defense in general. Plus, Charles Huff is leaving Marshall. He's the coach. He looks like he's definitely taking that job at Southern Miss, so that may be a distraction for him and the team. I like Louisiana on both sides of the ball. I'm taking them at home. I think they win by 14.
All right. So, yeah, like Scoop said, Woldridge got hurt a few weeks ago. I didn't really move the needle much for me because Fields can play. And I really don't know because there's also a weird situation with Marshall, too. What's the situation with Charles Huff, Andy? Didn't he say, hold on, this is my understanding of it. You could tell me if my understanding is correct. Didn't he say the rumors were circulating that he was interested in another job?
Southern Miss.
Yeah, but he deaded the rumors and said that's not true, and then took the job after that, right?
Yeah, he took the job anyway.
Well, his contract was expiring. He assumed.
Yeah, but didn't he? I feel like it's a bad look to come out in the press conference and be like, that's not true. Those rumors aren't true.
It was stupid by him. Also thought he could get a better job, but his contract was expiring. They didn't extend it. They wanted to wait, but he got the Southern Miss job. You're not going to wait at that point. Southern Miss is not a better job than Marshall. It's probably even. So he took those Southern Miss job, which is why when I saw this game, I was completely off of it. Honestly, if I was leaning aside, I'd probably go Marshall, though. There is an emotion to that. There's also the quarterback being hurt. Obviously, the Fields is the name of the quarterback, right? They were slightly worse against Louisiana Monroe last week, but Louisiana Monroe actually had a really surprising season for a team that I think everybody expected to be one of the worst. They had a pretty good year. Their quarterback play was clearly down a little bit, but it was really good other than that this year for Louisiana. But Marshall, pretty much since the middle of the season, their offense has been completely different. I think it'll be very high scoring. The Sun Belt Conference Championship usually is. But yeah, the only thing that scares me is I don't know how motivated Charles Huff is. Again, tomorrow he's no longer coaching Marshall. He's not going to coach the bowl game. He'll be at Southern Miss tomorrow doing a press conference. So I don't know how dedicated he actually is to this. I don't like to question somebody's dedication, but when you take another job, very clearly there's something to that. So yeah, I would lean Marshall, but I don't love the game.
Really quick, the best comment was I don't know why I left this out of the handicap. Craig Wood said Louisiana beat Big Game Hank, so if that's not a reason to pick
well, that's
Louisiana,
probably why Andy picked Marshall. He's being partial. He's clearly upset that his guy Big Game Hank took an L there. I guess you could put up Louis. I'm not betting this game. Maybe over. I don't know. Marshall should be able to run the ball in Louisiana. The defensive front really isn't very good. So maybe over, but I really have no idea, and I don't even want to try. The other games on are awesome, and I don't even want to try to lose money on this game. So, next. All right. This is a cool one. Big 12. I have 2 bets in the game. I bet the game early in the week, and then I placed another bet yesterday. So I'm on the over, and I'm on Iowa State. And if you watch the video I uploaded yesterday, I did say both of those. So you already knew that information. So, all right. So first of all, we have some injury situations in this game. Jordan Tyson is out for Arizona State, and that's their leading receiver by far. He's not just their leading receiver. Just to give you an idea, Jordan Tyson has 1,100 receiving yards this year. 1,100. Want to know how many yards their wide receiver 2 has? 291. So Jordan Tyson, 1,100 receiving yards. Their next closest wide receiver is 291. So their main pass catcher, their main guy, is out for this game. And the reason I think that's especially important is in the games we've seen Arizona State against good defenses, they've played 4 games against top 50 defenses. Scottaboo wasn't really able to get going in any of them. Basically, this Arizona run game looks awesome. Scottaboo's the man. But when they play good defenses, it's not really there. I mean, Texas Tech was able to take the run away. UCF, well, actually, Scottaboo didn't play in the UCF game. But we've seen defenses not really have problems taking the Arizona State run game away. The reason Arizona State is still able to win a lot of those games and have success is Sam Leavitt is escaping out of the pocket and making plays to Jordan Tyson, who has 1,100 yards receiving. So missing him is definitely a big deal because I do think Iowa State is about to take away the Arizona State run game. And Sam Levitt's going to have to win this game with his arm, which he's fully capable of doing, by the way. Sam Levitt has wowed me. Like, I'm a believer in Sam Levitt now. I can't believe how well he's played this year. So I do think Sam Levitt's more than capable of making plays with his arm and playing this game competitively, not having Jordan Tyson hurts. Now, on the other side, we got injury updates to the Iowa State defense as well. They're getting their safety back, who from what I've heard, is a very important piece, one of their leading tacklers. I think he was third on the team in tackles last year. He's a safety, helps out in the run. So even further hammer home that I think Iowa State's going to be able to take the run away from Arizona State. And they may even be getting a linebacker back as well who hasn't played since week 1. So this Iowa State defense might be getting 2 key pieces back that haven't played. Well, the safety, he's only been out 2 games, I think, the safety. But the linebacker hasn't played since week 1. So we might see this Iowa defense at full strength for the first time basically all season here. And this Iowa State defense has played back-to-back great games against the run. I have the numbers right here. Hold on. Hold, please.
Somebody's right, though, real quick. Iowa State's favored now. It's -1.
Yeah, I know.
I got this at 2.5, actually.
Okay, so in their last 2 games, Iowa State defensively against the run, 27% success rate. 27% success rate, one of those games against Kansas State. Now, the Iowa State offense hasn't looked great the last few weeks, but I like this one in ideal conditions, right? This one's at AT&T Stadium. In my opinion, this is a perfect bounce back for Rocco Beck. We've seen Arizona State's secondary get cooked several times this year. They have a great defensive front, and I'm not saying Arizona State's defense is terrible, but there's a reason that their games are 4-1 to the over in their last 5. It's because, that secondary is very vulnerable. You can throw the ball on Arizona State. So I like Rocco Beck to be able to throw the ball in this game. I like Iowa State to win. I like it to go over the total, although I will say now that I know Jordan Tyson's out, I don't know if I would have placed that over, but I do have it.
You can go in.
Yeah, I agree. I think the Tyson news is huge. The next, he is 70 catches or around that, 60 in the 60s. Their next most is 17. So that's a huge drop off. Also, their quarterback's a redshirt freshman. This is his first really, really big game. So I think that's part of it. Rocco Beck, I don't know that he's the greatest, but he's played in big games before. He's played in bowl games before. He's played on neutral sites before. So I do think that it's a big difference in terms of like experience from quarterback. And also, you're right. They have a very vulnerable secondary, and I think Rocco Beck will be able to take care of that. You just look at the success rates against them. The numbers look decent, but Kansas State, who really doesn't want to throw the ball, they want to run the ball. He had a 51.3% success rate on Arizona State's defense secondary. That's telling because that's not a team that wants to throw it. So I think Rocco Beck, who's much better than Avery Johnson, he should be able to have success. Arizona State's season looked like it was going to be in cruise control. And then they ran into Kansas, who turned into like the best team in the Big 12 for a few weeks there. And after that, it seems to have been a wake-up call for them because their defense has not been allowing anything through the air or on the ground. Granted, it was against Utah and Kansas State. But they've woken up and they're playing much better. And also another thing, and just throwing this out there because they are college kids and they hear everything. Nobody's saying a word about Iowa State. Everyone's talking, well, what Arizona State, what an easy path in the playoff for somebody. Arizona State, they're going to the playoff. Nobody's saying a word about Iowa State, and I think they take that as disrespect. They seem like a bit of a sleeping giant in this spot because they know if they win, they're going to the playoff. And I know Arizona State has a lot of pressure on them for that. So I think that's a lot for a young quarterback like Levitt to take. So I have Iowa State winning.
Not to mention, they've got one of the best coaches in the country, probably the future coach of the Dallas Cowboys at the helm here. Scoop?
Oh, you think Campbell's going down?
The Cowboys are too dumb to get him, but Campbell's a beast. I'm a Matt Campbell guy.
Yeah, so I bet this when it was Iowa State plus 2.5. So Iowa State as underdogs wasn't something on my bingo card to start the season. First of all, nobody expected these two teams really. Definitely not Arizona State. Whoever wins this game obviously is going to be in the playoff. Whoever loses is out. Whoever wins is probably the 12th seed, the last one in. So with Arizona State, obviously you're going to get a bunch of running. Like Andy said, everyone's pretty much on Arizona State, but I mainly think that's because they know Arizona State. Like Scadaboo is one of the best running backs, obviously all season. They do take up long drives. They eat up a bunch of clock. They take care of the ball. Sam Levitt, like Kyle said, has been great secondary option in the passing game too. But the thing with Arizona State, I agree with Kyle. They have the worst. First of all, they have the worst pass rush in the Big 12. So Rocco Beck's has. I know he had a terrible game against Kansas State. They still pulled that one out, but he's going to have a ton of time here to throw the ball. And even though Arizona State's great at holding the ball with long drives, Arizona State actually leads the Big 12 in time of possession. And Arizona State's defense is kind of hit or miss. They're inconsistent. Jaden Higgins and Jalen Noel, both over 100-yard receivers. I think they'll both have solid games here. The one thing I'm worried about is Iowa State's run defense, obviously. They're not solid at all. They're 94th in the country, and Arizona obviously is 10-2 against the spread. I've ridden them pretty much all season. And like everyone says, this is like a trend heaven for Arizona State. If you look at all the trends, I feel like everyone's going to back Arizona State here. But I like Iowa State's pass attack. Arizona State is 113th in red zone offense. They have no kicking game, more importantly. They actually have the third worst field goal percentage in the country. So Iowa State makes the big plays defensively when it matters. I'm going to take Iowa State. I like them through the air in a game where I feel like it's going to be 3 points throughout most of the game. At that point, I was taking the points, but especially with the line movement, I would still take Iowa State now.
Next game. Dude, the comments are so fucking.
The one I did look at taxes one.
Oh, the guy goes, "You're a teenager who follows your dad's bets. Seems healthy." And he goes, "I love my dad. Love my dad.
I love my dad. Me too. As whatever. I'm not gonna get into that.
Clemson, SMU. Yeah, I mean, no one needs to know about the family situation you're going through. So Clemson, SMU. All right. First of the three cool ones, let's say. Nah, that Big 12 game's going to be fun. Yeah, that's going to be fun. Then again, we thought the UNLV Boise State game was going to be fun. That wasn't a fun game at all. So. I don't think the game was that bad. I was on the losing side, which sucks. But, it wasn't a complete blowout. It was 21, and then the UNLV scored. It wasn't like...
Had the guy on Boise State not caught up to the running back who was just off to the races, that game would have been a touchdown, and they had the ball. So it would have been a good game, but yeah, that was...
I should have just played the under. I played the under the first time those two teams played at Cass. I don't know why they just go back to it.
What was it? The pool was like
58, I think. 57 and a half, 58.
Probably should have.
Yeah, probably just should have played an under. But there I go thinking again.
There you go, using your brain.
Clemson, SMU. So... before we get into it, I'm going to ask you both: is SMU in regardless?
I think it's right on the bubble if they lose. I don't think.
Andy says no. Andy says no.
Yeah,
Alabama gets in if SMU loses.
So you're saying Alabama's in regardless?
Like a 3-loss team will make it over SMU, who made the championship, and this is just an extra game for them, which sucks because if they didn't play an extra game, they'd be in.
Hold on. I want AJ. Can you do a poll real quick? Does SMU still make the playoffs with a loss? Yes, no. Does SMU still make the playoffs with a loss? Because this is a very highly debated topic across the internet right now. I think they do, but
about that. People think I have an SEC bias. I don't think Bama deserves it. But I know how football works. They're going to get it.
So by the way, if Clemson loses, Alabama's in. That's a set in stone. I mean, if SMU wins this game, Alabama gets the last spot. But if Clemson wins, I don't know. I want to see what this poll is, and then we'll get into this one. My bad. Okay, so mostly everyone is betting no. So, all right, we can end that and get back to the game. So, people are thinking Alabama's in regardless. So, hey, Kyle Theobald, thank you. He said, committee said they're not penalizing teams for losing in conference championship. Then he also said they are liars, though.
No, it just sucks that, if they weren't playing in this game, they would be automatically in. It just...
Their players gotten COVID, like Rhett Lashley said. They would be in right now. They couldn't play this game. That's the funniest part of all this.
I think they're not gonna. I think they're in. I think the only way Alabama gets in is if SMU wins. Personally,
you would think.
So, with that being said, who wins?
I know Kyle's gonna yell at me about my pick, so
I'm not gonna. I would never yell at you, Scoop.
You berate me all the time. You call me an asshole.
When you're being an asshole. What is your pick?
I like SMU.
It's a bad pick.
Plus, minus, yeah, I mean, that's what I thought. So, yeah, like Arizona State, no one saw SMU here. I actually thought SMU was terrible in that first game with Nevada because they couldn't figure out the quarterback situation. The thing with SMU here that everyone is going to say is they didn't play the top 3 teams in the conference. Didn't play Syracuse, didn't play Miami, didn't play Clemson until right now. They actually had one of the easiest ACC schedules. They did play BYU tough and put up 66 points against TCU. But, yeah, I'm not sure if they would drop out of the playoffs altogether if they lose. It looks like they might. The thing with Clemson, though, is they haven't looked great all year as well. I'm not a fan of Klubnik. Said it all year. I know he's looked okay, but he has struggled at times. He does look a little like Blake Bortles back there trying to throw a football. So even against common opponents, though, Louisville, Florida State, Pitt, SMU killed or beat all 3 of them. Clemson struggled against Florida State, which is an accomplishment in itself. Was lucky enough to beat Pitt and lost outright to Louisville. Kevin Jennings is one of the better downfield passers in the country. Their offense is really talented. They're balanced. Brashard Smith has been great on the ground, and SMU's defense has been really solid as well. They have one of the best run defenses in general. They're only giving up 3 yards per carry. They're only giving up 19.8 yards a game. Clemson, they only played 2 ranked teams all year. They lost both games. They have only covered 1 game out of the last 5. I just feel like Clemson's going to give up some chunk yardage on the ground. They're not great against the run, and with that run's going to open up some plays for Kevin Jennings. I get the whole Clemson has been here before. Dabo Sweeney with his manly testosterone is going to have them ready. But SMU is going to have a chip on their shoulder. No one thinks they're going to win here. I think SMU is just a better team overall. I think they win outright. Outright at -2.5, obviously. But I think they win by at least a touchdown here. So I just don't trust Clemson in this situation right now. I don't like their team. I think they're worse than previous Clemson teams. So.
All right. Thanks for that.
Here comes Kyle. Wrong.
I mean, I don't have to say it. Everyone knows it.
Bad pick.
Andy, do you want to tell everyone why Scoop is wrong?
Yeah, sure. So yeah, I like Clemson a lot. I think earlier in the week
this is your favorite bet of the day, right?
It is. I said earlier in the day that or earlier in the week, I think I texted Kyle. I didn't bet it because I'm a bitch. I really am, because I should have bet it earlier in the year. Remember when we did the Ohio State Indiana game, and I said the win total, the margin of victory would be 18-23. Well, that hit, and I didn't bet it. I'm a baby for that. Same thing I feel here. I think Clemson's winning this game 10-14. I thought about betting it, didn't do it.
Wait, by 10-14?
Yeah, I think they're winning it by 10-14. A couple things. Kevin Jennings has been really, really good this year. Don't get me wrong. He's been a surprise. I didn't expect it. Nobody really expected it. I will give him credit. You have to look at the teams that he has faced. The teams that he has faced that have good defenses, more specifically, there's really not many you can look at. But the game that I look at best is Duke. He got hurt in that game, but before that, his success rate was still terrible. His numbers look good, but they were not actually getting the plays that you think they were getting in that game. They weren't that successful. That's Duke. That's the best defense he's faced. Clemson is now going to be the best defense he's faced. And they have their holes themselves, but they can definitely make stops in this game and get stops. Now, the 3 best quarterbacks, I think we put it in the video, that Clemson has played this year are Carson Beck, CJ Bailey, and Anthony Calandria. All of them did really well against them. Kevin Jennings is below those guys. I don't care what you say. Those 3 guys are better than Kevin Jennings. Those guys had success, but they didn't blow them out or anything. The only reason that Clemson went into Carolina last week and lost that game is because Laura Sellers was running all over him. I don't see that from Kevin Jennings. I don't think that's happening. He still has a little bit of an injury nagging from earlier in the year. I don't see that happening. And then on the opposite side for Clemson's where I like them the most, I think they're going to be able to run the ball. There's been a few games where they weren't able to run the ball, but this SMU run defense looks good on paper, but they faced one rush attack all year, and it was Boston College. Boston College had a 69.2% success rate in that game. They were running all over them. The numbers don't tell you because they only got 4.2 yards per carry, but that's because of sacks. They were running all over them. I think Clemson, who with Phil Maffa, a guy that I talked a little bit of shit about in August and got some hate for it, I think he's going to have a really big day. I think Clemson's going to be able to control the game, and I don't think SMU is going to be able to do much. So that's why I really, really like Clemson. Favorite bet of the day.
I wouldn't say favorite bet of the day, but I have Clemson. I also have SMU's team total under as well. I bet both of those. SMU offensively here. All right, so SMU's offense. In the last 4 games, they're averaging 4 yards per carry, 33.5% success rate per rush. The run game has not been working for SMU for over a month now. They haven't been able to run the football. Now, you haven't really noticed it because Jennings has been the man throwing it. But it's there. They've been very unsuccessful trying to run the football in the last month. They couldn't run it on Boston College, Pitt, Virginia. They haven't been able to run the ball in a while. So that means the pressure is on Jennings here. Now, Jennings has been great since taking over as starting quarterback. He's been excellent. Here's the thing. Nobody has thrown the ball on Clemson in over 3 months. The last time somebody threw the ball on Clemson, it was Georgia in the opener. That was the last time a quarterback had a successful day throwing the ball on Clemson. Now, you look at two of the stat lines, like Andy just said, the NC State game. You might see Bailey threw for some yards. The score is 52-7 late in the third quarter. He threw 4 touchdowns in the fourth quarter. So, yeah, you look at the stats. You're like, oh, Bailey was throwing the ball on Clemson. It was 52-7 before he started throwing the ball. And you might say the same thing about the Virginia game. Like, oh, Calangia was able to throw the ball a little bit. Score was 42-6 in the fourth quarter. And then he drove up and down the field twice for add a couple hundred passing yards. So if you take out the 2 garbage time instances, nobody's been able to throw the ball on Clemson since the opener, Carson Beck. So if I'm putting my faith in Jennings to just throw the ball in a defense that's nobody's thrown on in over 3 months, not a situation I like to be in. I also don't really expect SMU to be able to run the ball much because they haven't been able to run the ball in a while. So I like the matchup for Clemson defensively. And when it comes to Clemson's offense, I don't really trust Klubnik. Some people do. I'm not really a Klubnik believer. Doesn't seem to show up when I need him to show up. That being said, since the Georgia game, Clemson's averaging over 5.7 yards per carry as a team. And then here's the kicker. One sec, let me find it. Here we go. The best rushing attack SMU has seen all season. All season, the highest ranked rushing attack that this SMU defense has seen is Boston College. That's the highest ranked rushing attack that SMU has seen so far, Boston College. And by the way, Boston College ran the ball on them, like 180 yards, 4.2 yards per carry. So the best rushing attack SMU has seen so far is Boston College, and they were able to run the ball on the road at SMU. So I expect Clemson to play some defense, hand the ball off, and I think they'll be successful. I think they win the game. Yeah, I wouldn't say favorite bet of the day like Andy, but yeah, I do believe this is the correct side. Next.
Terrible.
I think I'm alone on this one.
What's the next one?
Penn State, Oregon.
Yeah, because you're a square.
Also, I like Andy too. Everyone's trashing Andy. I like Andy.
No, I mean, it's whoever lost yesterday. Like, me and Andy lost yesterday, so it's like fade these guys. Then
Well,
today,
actually, people were talking shit about Andy, and then we had a bunch of I like Andys in a row. So I also like Andy.
people are very obsessed with short-term sample sizes in the sports betting space. Like, if today I have a winning day and Scoop loses, tomorrow people are like, you got to fade Scoop, you got to tail Kyle. And then I'll have a losing day and Scoop will win. They'll be like, oh no, fade Kyle, you got to tail Scoop. It's just, people are obsessed with short term. Everyone's going to be hot and cold. That's how it works. That's how this space works. The best handicappers in the world have losing months. Like, that's just how it works. So Penn State, Oregon. Oregon minus 3.5, Penn State plus 3.5. Andrew is on the Ducks.
I'm the squarest square that's ever squared.
Amen. The squarest square that ever squared. Toast, you guys can't see Toast. He's in the background.
Toast just randomly shoots in my ear like, oh, Andy.
He randomly comments, but well, hold on. To be fair, Toast hates Oregon, the program. He hates the whole city of Eugene.
Yeah. He doesn't like Portland. Doesn't like anything around there.
It's pretty simple for me. How many times do we have to see it happen for James Franklin? I mean, every time this guy gets in front of a top 2, I'm just limiting it to the top 2 teams in the Big Ten. Usually it's Michigan and Ohio State, but how many times do we have to see it where the guy lays an egg? Now, I know a lot of people are looking at the score of the Ohio State game earlier in the year. It's 20-13. They had a pick 6 in that game early in the game. They probably shouldn't have won that. They probably shouldn't have been close in that game. That game was a blowout, even though it didn't look like it. And then other than that, who have they played this year? Illinois. Are you impressed by Illinois? I'm not. Illinois was a decent team. They nearly lost to Rutgers. Like, they're not a good team. That was literally their best win. That's their highest ranked win that's their highest ranked win, period, because they haven't beat anybody else. For Oregon, though, and I don't think they get enough credit for what they've done this year. They beat the number 4 team in the country right now in Boise State. They did have a couple of lumps against Wisconsin. They still won the game. They've had a couple of tough ones lately against Maryland specifically as well. They played rough. That was weather. Other than that, they've been pretty picture perfect, especially in the Ohio State game. So that's just laying the groundwork of what these teams actually are. On the field, I think the pass rush is going to be all over Drew Aller today. I don't think they're going. I think Penn State's best shot is to try to control this game through the run game, but I don't think they're going to be able to do that because the Oregon offense is too strong. So they're not going to be able to stop them enough. So you're going to need Drew Aller to make plays. Do you trust Drew Aller? Because I certainly don't. I don't think he's going to be able to make plays under pressure. He doesn't have the receivers to do it. We've never seen him do it in a big game.
Hold on. That's bullshit. That's bullshit.
What about
what about the second half of that USC game? That second half of the USC game, he was a goddamn hero.
Dude, it was USC.
That was a huge game. Huge game on the West Coast, man. Drew Aller is going to silence Andy today, and I'm going to be here for it. I'm going to be texting him the whole freaking game.
You know what? I hope he does. I hope you can throw it in my face, but you won't be able to because James Franklin in these games can't do it. I don't think Drew Aller will be able to make the plays to win the game. And then on the other side, Dylan Gabriel, I think he will be able to do a lot in this game. I know the Penn State defense is good, but again, what are the offenses they faced this year? I mean, just going through their schedule. West Virginia, it's run first. Bowling Green, Kent State, Illinois, UCLA was terrible this year. USC, their quarterback, they had to bench him midseason. Wisconsin, that was a backup quarterback. The only team that they saw that was a good offense was Ohio State. Ohio State ran all over them, and Will Howard was solid in that game. So what have we learned about Penn State through all their games? When they see a good offense, that offense is going to do a lot of things on them. And that's what I expect Oregon to do. So I think Oregon's going to win this game. I don't know if I'll say comfortably. I said it earlier in the week comfortably. I think it'll be by a touchdown.
Don't back off. You said comfortably.
I think it'll be a touchdown to 10 points. That's where I think Oregon will.
Scoop.
Andy's just like a hater, man.
I know.
He just goes hard into teams. Like he's like Drew Aller. Like I feel for his family right now. Yeah, this is the game I actually had the most trouble with. In general, I'm rooting for Penn State. My cousin's the coach there, so good luck to him.
We just figured out why Penn State has struggled to win big games. Scoop's cousin is the coach.
To be fair, he's a special teams coach. They're doing well.
Oh.
So everyone thought Ohio State would be here. Big props to Ryan Day for Ryan Day in that game last week. For this one, I saw reasons to take both sides, but the one bet I do like is the over here. It's hard not to take an over with Oregon right now when they've scored at least 30 points in every single one of their games, except that weird opening day of the season and that Wisconsin game. And I've seen stuff of Oregon not trying here, which is ridiculous. Who wouldn't want to win a title in a first round bye?
To that, I know why people are saying that. If you get the 5 seed, you're in a prime.
Yes, 5 seed's great, but you still want the first round bye. But yeah, so anyway, this team has always traveled. Travel is an issue for them. Gabriel's thrown for 250 yards in every game, pretty much. It doesn't matter who the defense is, but Andy trashing Drew Aller. Drew Aller is not a bad quarterback by any means. He's only had 5 interceptions all season. He has almost 10 yards of completion on average. We all know Singleton and Allen. They've had little down years from what I expected or what everyone expected, I think, from them. But they can both turn it up when needed. And most importantly, they have probably one of the best tight ends in the country with Tyler Warren. He's constantly open in the middle of the field. And as great as the defense as Penn State has, Oregon's still really consistent with all their drives. They're 13th in the country in passing. And don't forget, Penn State did give up 27 to Bowling Green and 25 to Minnesota. So, and as much as you want to talk smack on James Franklin, not winning the big games, he does keep all these games close. He's not a bad coach by any means. And Kudelnicki, the offensive coordinator, has been really solid. He's improved this Penn State offense a lot. He did it with Kansas 3 years ago, 2 years ago. He's doing it here. He's getting a lot of guys open with pre-snap motions and different looks. I think this game is going to be a lot closer than people think, but I like both offenses for both sides, and I like them to get going here. I think the 50.5 is too little.
Well, first of all, this is not one of my favorites or anything. I like Penn State, and I think they cover it. And early in the week, I was like, I love Penn State. But I mean, I think they're going to win, but I don't know if I have much logical reasoning to back it. First of all, when people talk about James Franklin not beating top 5 teams, dude, if you take out Ohio State and Michigan, it's like 1 or 2 games. Like it's the same 2 teams over and over again. They lose to the same 2 teams, Ohio State and Michigan. So in my opinion, this Penn State got what they finally needed, a chance to win the Big Ten without having to beat Ohio State or Michigan, because for whatever reason, he could just never beat those 2 teams. I'm not really a believer in Oregon as an elite defense. They're a great defense. They're not a bad defense at all. And offensively, I definitely will give Dan Lanning his flowers. That's an elite offense without a question. But defensively, I'm not 100% sold on the Oregon defense, and I think Aller's going to be able to make throws. We've seen it. That second half of the USC game was awesome. He was good as hell on the road on the West Coast to come back and win. We've seen these Big Ten teams struggle in these new cross-country games from the West Coast to the middle of the country and all that. And Drew Aller showed up in the second half. So I think he's going to be able to throw the ball. I'm also on the over, by the way. So my money's split in half. I have Penn State and the over if you want to put a second graphic up. But I think neither team is going to be able to run it, and I think both teams are going to be able to throw it. I think we're going to see kind of similar game to what we saw between Oregon and Penn State. And in that game, I took Oregon plus 3.5. I'm sorry, Oregon and Ohio State. I'm sorry. So rewind back to the Oregon-Ohio State game. I like both quarterbacks to be able to throw the ball. I said it was a coin flip game that came down to the very end, and neither team should be getting more than a field goal, which is exactly what happened. It came down to the end. Oregon won that game at home in Eugene. I'm seeing very similar game here. In fact, Penn State and Ohio State are kind of similar the way I look at it. I mean, Penn State had the ball first and goal on the 1 to tie the game against Ohio State. So we look back like, that game could have been 2020 with 3 minutes left or whatever. So it's not like they got wiped by Ohio State. James Franklin just couldn't punch the ball in the – why he ran that same play twice in a row baffles me. But yeah, I think both quarterbacks are going to be able to throw the ball. I think it's going to be back and forth game and a field goal at the end. So I am on Penn State.
Real quick, you brought up the USC game, and I think there is something different about USC's defense. Obviously, we know USC's defense is worse than Oregon's. They don't have a pass rush either. USC has no pass rush. I think that plays the biggest factor to me. Oregon has a very good pass rush. USC's 86th in pass rush grade this year, one of the worst in the Big Ten. So I think that plays a huge role. I think that Oregon's going to get a lot of pressure on Drew Aller. That's why.
But Drew Aller's been great with the pressure, man. I'm a believer in Drew Aller.
Faced that much. That's my point. He hasn't faced really any good pass rushers besides Ohio State.
How many good offensive lines has Oregon seen?
Great question.
Which is the only one, the team that came into their home stadium and hung 30 on them. So maybe Oregon's pass rush has those elite numbers, so they aren't seeing these elite pass protections, which Penn State is 9th in the country in pressure rate, 8th in pass blocking grade. I like Drew Aller. And also Dylan Gabriel and Dan Lanning. Let's not act like, oh, these are the guys you count on in the big game. We've seen them both fumble the bag plenty of times also.
Dan Lanning hates not okay.
I mean, I like Dan Lanning, but let's not act like he always wins the big game.
Fair.
See Washington twice for last year. All right. Georgia, Texas. Real quick, put up, I have a graphic here before Andy goes into his soliloquy. So this is the Chinese calendar. Just point to what year this is. Zoom in on 2024, please. I think this is
it's the Longhorn.
It's the year of the Longhorn. It is. Could you blow it up? Just zoom it in so it's only 2024 on the screen. Can you do that?
What the fuck are you talking about?
Never mind. Don't.
And rotate it. You want you to rotate it and zoom in on a Longhorn.
That's okay.
All right, never mind. It's fine. Take it off.
Oh, it's the year of the Longhorn. That's what you're telling me. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, Andy, really? It took you that long?
You see it. I see it now. It popped up. I'm a little bit behind on my laptop.
Can you see it? 2024 is the year of the Longhorn, and you're going to bet Georgia. Go ahead.
Yeah. So I said it yesterday. There was a big theme, and I guess it was kind of correct in one of the games at least. Tough to beat a team twice, but when you completely, utterly dominated that team on their home field and made both quarterbacks look like statues and had, 7 sacks in that game, the O-line couldn't stop a thing. Georgia gets good pressure. We know that. Georgia's pass rush has improved much since the beginning of the year. That Texas game is a perfect example. I don't think that there's going to be time to throw for Quinn Ewers. I don't think Arch Manning's going to come in this game. If he does, I don't think it's good. Ewers is going to need to escape the pocket a lot. He has a bum ankle. I don't think he's going to be able to do that. He had a high ankle sprain 2 weeks ago. No way he's going to be 100%. Texas A&M doesn't have near the pass rush that Georgia has, so we don't have to. That wasn't as big of a worry. Yeah, that's just. I mean, that's all the tech when Texas has the ball. For Georgia, their issue lately has been these receivers can't catch. That's a big issue. They're going to need to catch, but they did it in the first game. They didn't look great on offense in the first game. I think they'll improve a little bit. They looked really, really good in like the last 7 minutes of the Georgia Tech game. This game is simply going to come down to can Georgia do anything on offense. So I'm going to bet on Carson Beck doing something here. I'm going to bet on him having a good game, playing well, them being able to run the ball. Look, it's Georgia, so I'm betting on them here.
We know not to listen to a goddamn word you have to say.
One more thing. Kirby Smart as a dog. We know that that's usually a very good thing. It's usually very good for Georgia when he's a dog. The only game this year they lost outright was the Alabama game, and they nearly won that game. They were down 28-0.
Oh, they nearly won it, Scoop. They nearly won it.
Almost. It was close.
You guys are so... It's really fun to come on here every Saturday. It really is.
Hokum. Both of these, okay, so we know that Georgia won the first game 30-15. Both of the offenses looked terrible. Both. That includes Georgia. Carson Beck couldn't do anything. They couldn't run the ball. The reason they won was turnovers. Well, I mean, Georgia had some turnovers too. It was a very fluky game. But it's very important to point out, neither offense could do shit in that game. So the idea that Carson Beck played well against Texas is ludicrous. No, he didn't. He looked terrible. Yeah, I trust Carson Beck a little more at home too, by the way. But I don't really like the matchup for either offense. I would also lean towards the under. A lot of people in our group like the under. I didn't actually bet that, but I don't hate an under bet either. I think the total's suspiciously high, though, 50.5, when I feel like everyone kind of likes the under. I'm not saying that's a reason not to bet it. I'm just saying that I'm a little concerned with that. But yeah, the main reason I like Texas here is they seem to have figured it out. Now, did you hear that Texas is missing offensive lineman here, Andy?
Yeah.
That sucks.
The one thing somebody asked, Georgia, ETN is still questionable. Don't know if he's going to play, but I think Nate Frazier's kind of taking that job at this point. So I don't know.
I think the other guy's better. Is that his name, Frazier? I think he's better.
Frazier looked a lot better last week than ETN, although he has a fumbling issue, but I don't know that that's going to hold him back.
A fumbling issue.
Twice last week against Georgia Tech. That's something you don't. Usually Kirby will bench those guys, but because of the health issues.
So, all right. In the first game, ready for this? So what we have learned that Carson Beck can't handle himself under pressure. In the first game against Texas, when pressured, Carson Beck was 4 of 12 with 13 yards passing and an interception. He had a 7 passer rating. So the question of, who's going to win this battle, Georgia's offensive line or the Texas defensive front, it was a one-sided dominant victory for the Texas defensive front in the first one. Carson Beck couldn't do anything when he saw pressure. So I expect this Texas defense, I've said it a number of times, when it comes to Texas, the offense, don't really believe in it. But as far as the defense goes, I think it might be one of the best defenses in the country, certainly top 3 or 4. So I expect the Texas defense to give Georgia all kinds of problems again. And on the offensive side of the ball, you won't hear me say, Texas offense is going to do much, because I don't believe they will. Georgia's defense looked very good in the first matchup. But one thing I really like from Texas is in the last 4 games, they seem to be figuring their shit out on the ground. In the last 4 games, they're averaging over 5.1 yards per carry as a team. That's against Arkansas, who's been great against the run all year. Kentucky, great defense. Texas A&M, great defense. And, I wrote Arkansas twice. Florida's the other one. I wrote the team wrong down to my notes. So Arkansas, Florida, Texas A&M, Kentucky, 4 great defenses in a row. Texas averaging over 5.1 yards per carry. That was not the production we were getting from Texas on the ground early in the season. So it seems like Sark has kind of figured his shit out on the ground. And we're coming into this game. I don't trust the situation for either quarterback. In my opinion, we're looking at Quinn Ewers / Arch Manning with run support against Carson Beck with no run support, because Georgia can't run the ball for shit. So I got it at 2.5. Certainly like a lot better at 2.5, but I'm on the Longhorns lean under, following the Chinese calendar here. It's 2024 is the year of the Longhorn.
A couple things. One is I am not a Make-A-Wish kid. I have similarities, but I am not one. And no, I don't have a Sandusky fathead in my room. I am strictly Joe Pa fatheads only from here on out. So in this one, I was back and forth really on a side. The fact of the matter is both teams have some pretty big flaws. Georgia doesn't have an offensive line, really. I'm sorry, Angie, they just don't. And Texas, when playing tough games, they're just they're just terrible on third downs. Quinn Ewers hasn't been that solid throughout the year, and I'm not sure if Arch Manning is going to play here if it matters. But turnovers are a problem when they get blitzed. So, I mean, I am on the under, by the way. But still, Georgia's offense hasn't been exactly good themselves. Texas is the number 3 scoring defense in the country. They have a really solid defense. And we all see Carson Beck this year. He's really inconsistent. But if Georgia keeps the pressure up like did the first game, Texas is going to struggle. Georgia had 7 sacks, 10 tackles for loss that game. Kirby Smart is a great coach at making adjustments. He's not going to just have the same blitz packages that he's had earlier in this game, the season against Texas. Texas is going to have to compete with new looks. They throw it in. I'm not sure that's going to happen much. I don't like Sarkisian as a coach in the first place. But, yeah, Texas has problems keeping tough secondary defenses out of the backfield. Both teams do. So they both struggle with turnovers when they're pressured. And I feel like the defensive line will both cause a lot of pressure on both of them today. So Texas, on the other side, gets about 2 turnovers a game. They're incredibly solid. If they stop the big plays from Georgia, they're gonna win this game. They're top 10 in havoc, top 10 in EPA per rush, top 10 in EPA per pass, Texas. So Texas does have a great defense. So I think this game's just going to have a lot of stops from both sides. Georgia is also one of the best field position teams in the country. Most drives on the for Georgia, their opponents start inside the 25. So it's hard to see how Ewers is going to march down the field consistently. So, yeah, I like the under here. I think it's going to be a tough game on both sides from both defenses, so I would definitely take the under if I was making a bet.
Real quick, I want to respond to a couple of comments. First of all, John Bender says # Chinese calendar. But someone says, I can't see Georgia losing back-to-back SEC championship games. That's kind of what Kirby Smart does. They're 1-4 in their last 5 SEC championship games, Andy? They always lose this game.
No, sir.
Yes, they are.
They beat LSU. They beat Auburn. They do lose, but
wait a second. They lost to LSU. Oh, they beat LSU. Yes,
they beat LSU.
But then, okay, I pulled it up. They're 1-3. They're 1-4 in their last 5 SEC championship games.
But what do those teams have in common?
They're SEC teams.
They're all Alabama.
No, they're not. They lost to LSU in 2019.
Okay, yeah, that was before, but that was the Burrow team. I mean, since 2020,
Kirby Smart chokes this game. Let me be very clear. Kirby Smart 1-4 in his last 5 SEC championship games. This is when you choke, Andy. You should know. This is when you fumble the bag, and then we all after they lose, we all go bet Georgia to win the Natty because then he bounces back and wins. That's what he does. They lose this game, win the national championship game.
But how's Sark doing in the SEC championship game? Oh, he's never done it before, so we don't know.
I mean, he's.
You have no idea how Sark's going to coach in this game. Sark might be very conservative in this game. Because to be honest, they benefit the most if they lose. If they're the 5 seed, they're going to the national championship game. So I'm not saying that they're going to tank the game.
Oh, so now you're thinking Georgia's going to lose?
No, I was talking about
next game.
Sarkisian also didn't actually play.
Oh shit, that's the last game. My bad. We did Penn State already. All right, let's do a community top bet real quick, and then Toast is going to come on and do college basketball. Yeah, we're doing a community top bet. It'll take 2 seconds. Oh, for college basketball.
No, Kansas State already started, so you should skip that one.
All right, so community top bet real quick. Let's just do one poll with the Power 4 games. So who did they like in Arizona? They like Arizona State. Oh, I'll do the community top bet. You do the underdog, Andy.
Crap, I don't have my phone. Let it pull up. My phone just got taken away from me. I should have Cam Scatterboo higher. Sorry. I should have Cam Scatterboo higher than his rushing yards. I think he's going to be able to run. I think they're going to have to run the ball in that game. There's no doubt that offense is not going to be able to throw the ball as well as they usually would, especially without Tyson. So I think they're going to run the ball. Cade Klubnik higher than 257.5. I also think Clemson's going to get a lot done on offense. That was my top out of the day. I do think they're going to run the ball very well, but that's going to open up the pass for Klubnik. And I know what you're going to say. Why does that say higher for Drew Aller? I think that they're going to be down a decent amount late, and he's going to have to throw the ball.
No, I think deep down I'm right, and Drew Aller's going to have a big game.
So he will get higher. I thought 201 was actually quite low for him because as much as I don't think he's great, even against Ohio State, he threw for like 190 or something of that nature, and Ohio State's a much better defense than Oregon. So definitely I thought the number was just low. I still think Oregon's going to win the game.
Someone goes, Andy got his phone taken away. His parents must have seen his pics.
That's a good one.
That was a good one. If you are not an Underdog customer and would like a free pick, well, Luka Doncic over a half total point is available. And if you're not an Underdog customer and would like to become one, well, you can in one of these lovely yellow states. Just need to enter that promo code BET. B-E-T, and you can get a deposit match up to $1,000. It's 3 letters. Pretty simple, folks.
All right. So thanks for that. We'll give the poll a couple more seconds. Just hit end poll. Let's see who won. Okay. It's either Texas or Arizona State.
It's Texas.
Is it Texas?
Speed through these couple of games.
Yeah. If you want to stick around, Toast and Andy are going to do a speed college basketball round. The games are kicking off, so they're just going to go through a few games real quick. We won't even do polls or anything. We're just going to rip through them. The community top bet is Arizona State.
Oh, what? Okay.
Arizona State plus 1.5. I'm sorry, community. I think you lose that. All right, everyone, I am out of here. Toast is coming on right now. And, me and Scoop are out of here. So yeah. Toast and Andy are going to rip through a few college basketball games if you want to stick around for 5 minutes. Other than that, hit me up in the Discord if you need me. Estot, just go submit your league picks now. He said, can we do the late games? Dude, you got 10 minutes. Just go submit them now. Right. Bender. No, Estot, put your picks in. That ass, though. Just go submit them. It takes 2 seconds. I usually don't cut people off if they're like a second late. Like, I usually give them a few minutes for the league. I'm not like a Nazi with that. Like, I'll give you a few minutes. All right, everyone, have a good one. Later,
guys. Good morning, everybody, or good afternoon, I guess, if you're on the East Coast. Andy, how are you? I'm sorry about your phone being taken away. That's always, I just did that to my son last night. I know how that is. It sucks. But you'll learn.
But yeah.
Anyway, we're not going to talk about St. John's, Kansas State, because this game has already started.
Right.
St. John's looks a little slow to start. What's that?
I said good start for me. I had Kansas State.
Well, they're losing now, Andy, so not a good start for you no more.
What game should we start with? Nebraska?
Nebraska, Michigan State's fine. I still see Scoop. Is he coming on with us or no?
No, he's
just being a voyeur. Got it. Okay. So
I believe he's leaving. Right, Scoop?
Anyway, Michigan State, Nebraska. You guys know that I have a 3-team moneyline parlay with Sparty, Michigan, and I can't remember who off the top of my head because I've made like 15 bets today. St. John's. Oh yeah, that was the other one. I just don't. Go
one
ahead.
second. I was told Scoop was leaving. Scoop, are you staying for this section?
No, he left.
Okay, cool. All right, sorry about interrupting.
No, you're good.
I also saw him lingering. I was like, what the hell?
Yeah, that's why I didn't want to be like, I just didn't want to keep on going, and then yeah.
Okay,
but anyway, regardless, this Sparty game, I go ahead, Andy. And Sparty's your team, or
yeah, I had the under in this one. I know that last night on the show Rod didn't like it. I just think that the fact that Michigan State can't shoot the 3 really hurts them in these totals, and Nebraska, as good as their offense has been, Michigan State, that it's been proven that Nebraska against good defenses, more specifically St. Mary's, and in that game against Creighton even, the inside shots just not going to be there as well for them against Michigan State. This is a really good defensive team, so I don't expect a lot of points. That's all. If I was picking a side, I'd probably lean Nebraska, but I have the under in this game.
Yeah, and I think that Sparty should roll here today. I'm not a big fan of this Nebraska team so far. Obviously, they've actually played a decent schedule if you look at it. St. Mary's, Creighton, North Florida, even UT Rio Grande Valley wasn't a terrible team to kick off their season against. I just schematically, I just don't know if Nebraska really has it here today. They really struggle with drive and kick teams, and if there's one thing that Sparty can do is they can drive and kick. Not to mention the fact that Sparty has faced a much better competition, and they're finally at home coming. And I also think that losing to Kansas, losing to Memphis, obviously those are much better teams than Nebraska. I think that you get them fully engaged. I guess you're talking about Sparty here in their first game on even though it's at home against Nebraska. So I was stuttering because I was trying to find a line moving in this game, but I think it's pretty much stayed the same. So yeah, it's Sparty or pass for me, but I think that they win the game. So next game.
Okay, we are on to Syracuse, Notre Dame.
I think what were you on last night, Andy? I can't remember. You were on Q's, right?
I'm on Syracuse. Yeah, I think Syracuse is going to keep this close. We've seen it. Notre Dame struggles with height. They're on a 5-game losing streak. It would be a good bounce back spot, but the same thing's kind of going on with Syracuse. They just got crushed on the road at Tennessee. They've already played a road game, so I like that for them. I just think the height's going to be the big difference for them. I think they'll get a lot of work done inside. I'm not impressed with this Notre Dame team. They played Georgia the other day. They got out-rebounded by 13. Georgia's a good rebounding team, but Syracuse is going to out-rebound them, have extra possession. So I have Syracuse.
Yeah, and I feel the complete opposite. I think this is a really good spot for Notre Dame, especially at home here. Again, I don't really put too much stock into Notre Dame losing 5 games in a row. I mean, first of all, those teams, all besides Elon, and if there's one thing about Elon that they're going to give that gives teams trouble, is Elon's one of the biggest teams in the country. But losing to Rutgers, Houston, Creighton, and Georgia doesn't really make me worry about Notre Dame that much. Not to mention the fact that we talked about this a little bit last night. Obviously, if you're a Syracuse fan, you know that JJ Starling's not going to be out, or he's going to be out. He broke his hand. And another thing is that Notre Dame has seen teams like Syracuse that have a lot of height in it. Georgetown was 10th, Creighton 35th, Rutgers was 14th, Elon is number 2, Georgetown 23, North Dakota 131. So they've seen multiple teams with the height like that. So they've played with this disadvantage before. They're a very team that's not that deep, but they've played a lot together with the players that have. They've played one of the top 100 schedules, maybe a top 75 schedule in the country here. Maybe if this game was in Syracuse, I would be a little bit more weary about this, but at home against the Syracuse team that, again, I also know that they've lost 3 out of 4 against some much better teams than Notre Dame as well. I don't put too much into the Texas game. I don't really know what to think of Texas Tech, really. I don't really know if they're that good of a team. They've played nobody, and the only team that Texas Tech lost or beat or played that was decent was St. John's, and they lost that game. So, I like the Irish. I don't know if I like them a ton, but I got them at 4.5. I don't know if I would push 5.5 for 6, but I do think it's a good spot for the Irish today. Clemson, Miami. Another one that's could be somewhat decent. I'm really curious to see how this game kind of plays out. I said last night I'm on Miami team total over 71.5. I just can't trust this Miami defense at all. I think that if you even have any little bit of an idea of what's going on in college basketball, that you know that Miami has always, at least for the last 4 or 5 years, has always been a very good team. And now that's really kind of starting to fall out of. I mean,
game already.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Did it really?
Yeah, the Rutgers game also tipped already as well.
Okay, so yeah, Miami team total over 71.5. I think that Miami scores. I don't want to trust their defense at all to save. Miami's one of the worst defensive teams in the country. So they had a game, their last game against Arkansas. They should have won that game, and they let Arkansas do whatever they wanted in the second half. So obviously Clemson matches up well against them, but I think that Miami can score on anybody in the country. It's just their defense that I worry about.
Did Wisconsin tip already?
No, this one's later. Yeah, I'll start with this one. I said it yesterday. Wisconsin kind of owns this rivalry. I don't agree with people that are look, this is going to sound stupid. And I know they were making fun of me last night on the show, which is what people love to do in their comments. This is a neutral site game if I've ever seen one. I understand this is where Marquette plays their home game. This game is being played in Milwaukee at Pfizer Forum, where Marquette plays their home games, but the Bucks play there, and it's Wisconsin plays neutral site games there as well. So this, to me, is more like a semi-away game. But again, that doesn't mean a lot. I just think Wisconsin matches up well. They've beaten a couple of good teams this year. Arizona specifically, they're coming off not a bad loss. They're coming off a loss to a really sneaky Michigan team. I think this is a really good bounce back spot. Plus Marquette's coming off the Iowa State game, which was a big game, and they lost, emotional one. So I think that in a rivalry, it'll be a close game. I'm not saying Wisconsin will win, but at 6.5, that's 2 possessions. I think Wisconsin's going to keep it within that. So I have Wisconsin.
Yeah, I actually just placed Wisconsin before we went live as well. Chase Ross, who's one of Marquette's better players, is doubtful in this game. So even if he does play, I don't think he's going to be 100%. And I think that really changes things for their defense, especially trying to trap guys on Wisconsin. So Wisconsin, again, Andy touched on it. It's not only is it essentially a neutral site game, Wisconsin's absolutely dominated Marquette for the last 15 years, it seems like. So I think that sure, Wisconsin defensively might have a little bit of trouble with Cam Jones, but the fact that Chase Ross isn't there, I think that helps a lot. So, or as far as Wisconsin side, so yeah, I did take Wisconsin here. I just thought that I think I wouldn't mind the under as well. I think 150 is a little bit high for these two teams. It's starting to tick down a little bit, but I think we see a little bit of a more kind of a grinded out game than we're a little bit used to. But yeah, I like Wisconsin as well. Next game up. This game hasn't started, that's for sure. Gonzaga, Kentucky, aka the Avengers. This one hits close to my heart, that's for sure. I'm on Gonzaga. I think everybody's gonna know that. I got them at 4.5. It's at 6.5 now. Just gonna say, watch out. We got some reverse line movement because it seems like everybody wants to bet Kentucky here. So I get it. It's the Avengers. It's Mark Pope. I understand that. But one thing that you guys got to understand, if there's one guy in America that Mark Few absolutely bends over and spanks, it's Mark Few. 9-1 against Pope teams. Mark Few just absolutely dominates Mark Pope. Again, I just think that it's going to be too big of an ask for Kentucky to fly across the country and face this Gonzaga team that can run with them, can match up with size with them as well. Gonzaga is one of the most experienced teams in the country. Kentucky is one of the most experienced teams in the country as well, but they're all a bunch of misfits that are coming together. I think you have to really worry about Lamont Butler, and Gonzaga has multiple guards, including Dusty Stormy, that can guard him as well. This game might be close early, but I think that when push comes to shove, I think Gonzaga probably wins by this game by 8+.
I'm on the other side. I'm still waiting for a 7, although at this point 6.5, you're at 2 possessions. I just think it's gonna be a close shootout game. Kentucky, the one thing that I think benefits them a lot is this is basically a road game because it's in Seattle. I mean, not basically, it is a road game for them, but yeah, they've already played a road game. They didn't handle it great. It was on the road at Clemson. They lost that game. Didn't look terrible, though. I expect them to be able to come in here and shoot well enough to keep it close. I'm not saying. And Gonzaga had issues defending the 3, specifically against West Virginia, who's a really good 3-point shooting team. Kentucky is similar to that. So I expect that Kentucky can keep it close. I understand. It's a little worrisome to me that the number's going up so much, yet I've heard a lot of people liking Kentucky. So that's very worrisome to me.
I think it's Lamont Butler. He's like questionable.
No.
I think that's the issue. So, because if you take him out and you have to put and if you take Butler out and you have to have Kirkrisa on the floor the whole night, it's going to be a long night.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah, I like this Kentucky team in a bounce back to just keep it close. I don't think they're going to win. I think Gonzaga has a really tough schedule coming up, right? Because they play UConn next week too. But yeah, I think they're just kind of prepared for that and they'll win the game. But at a game that I think there's going to be 170 points scored, I think it could be within 7. So I would take Kentucky here. That's
about it for this one.
Yes,
sorry
sir,
I had to be so. Yeah, sorry I had to be so quick, but that's what it happens on college football Saturdays. That won't happen going forward.
The last one.
I know, that's what I'm saying. It's crazy, but
yeah, next week you guys get the Army and Navy, and then it's college basketball. So
next week I won't be here, unfortunately.
Oh,
which is good for everybody else. They'll love that, but
Andy,
they don't. I want to be clear. My phone was taken away to transfer data. I didn't get grounded. People kept saying
that. Honestly, it's a pretty good thing you clarified that because.
The
other way sounded quite poor. I mean, getting your phone taken away at this age is a sorry thing. So.
No, my brother's thinking to get the data transferred to a new phone. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm glad you clarified that. All right, so all right, so that is all for today's show. We will see you guys tomorrow for the NFL stream. Everybody, best of luck with your bets today. Let's hope for some better results than yesterday.
St. John sucks, by the way.
St. John sucks. Stay
They do
goated.
suck.